Hi, my name is Ramita. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm a mom to my beautiful baby girl, Marceline. She's about 14 months old now, which is so crazy. What I want to talk about today is breastfeeding. Basically, my breastfeeding journeys, things that I learned, like tips that I could give to any other moms who are thinking about breastfeeding their babies, maybe are struggling and want to look to see like what a real mom, that's me, did with her baby. What I did was I basically breastfed my baby for a year. So exactly 12 months to the day, and then I stopped because I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I did both. I breastfed and I pumped later, so I have a lot of experience in both things. I kind of know what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to make this whole video, just put in its own thing, because I made a bunch of vlogs about, you know, my baby growing up and these different like monthly updates with her. And I've like sprinkled in breastfeeding stuff, like the little troubles that we had with feeding and pumping and stuff. And so here it is. Here's all the info all together in one video. And now that it's over and I'm done, and this is just everything I've learned. So I think to start off to get that whole idea is just like, I'll give you a rundown of my story, basically the whole first year of month to month on how I did breastfeed. I guess it kind of starts back before she was born and when I was pregnant with her. In fact, I think sometime during my second trimester, I noticed that one of my breasts like leaked a little bit of colostrum, which is like the breast milk that when your baby's first born, that's the type. It's like super fatty, really high in calorie for those like newborn babies to like really gain those pounds right away. And yeah, it was like really weird, like because I was chilling with no bra on just here at home, and then I noticed like I leaked a little bit. So I told my doctor, my OB, and she said that that's actually a good sign that when she is born, that I would be able to make enough milk for her. Because like a lot of moms really struggle with production, at least feeling like they're not making enough milk for their babies. And I knew already before she was even born that I think I was gonna make enough for her, just because I did leak a couple times. Plus I've always had like quite larger breasts, so I was like, okay, well there's more to work from here. Surely I'll be able to make some milk. And spoiler alert, I think so. I think I made plenty for her because I was able to breastfeed for a year, obviously. But when she was born, I had no real problem getting her to latch and feed right away, which you hear that from a lot of moms, that they need to really rely on those like lactation consultants at the hospital to really help their baby latch. And I feel like I barely needed the lactation consultant's help, because I was able to just like get her to latch right away. Even as like a newborn, she was only a couple days old, like she fell asleep, you know, drinking while I was like physically breastfeeding her. So I knew she was getting enough because she felt relaxed enough to fall asleep. And I thought that was a really good sign. Oh, because my game plan for before she was born was to breastfeed if I could do it, because I stay at home and I'm not gonna like leave to go to an office, you know, after like maternity leave or whatever. So I knew that I could dedicate that time with her to breastfeed. So the plan was pre-birth that I would do it if I can, if I'm able to. I even asked for a breastfeeding pump, part of my baby's baby shower, which I think I ended up having to buy right before she was born anyway. So that was my game plan beforehand. And because she had no problem latching, getting that milk right away, she was basically exclusively breastfed till she was about like 4 or 5 months old. I think slowly as time went on, I did introduce pumping, but about like 4 or 5 months old is when her doctor said that she could start getting some solids. Like I think we introduced baby cereal with breast milk, there you go, around like the 4 or 5 month old mark. And then she got purees later, and then she got more solids when she hit like 6 months old. So right around that time, you know, she's getting, you know, something else that wasn't just breast milk from, you know, the tap from the source. So we slowly started changing up our schedule, I think think that was like the main like time where I would slowly introduce pumping, and where I think in like first thing in the morning, like the first feed with her in the morning had the most milk in my breast. So sometimes she didn't even fully empty out my breast after that first feeding. She's like, okay, like she got full off of maybe just like one breast, and I still had the other. So I found myself like pumping right after that first feed, or, you know, sometime like right away in the morning to, you know, fully, you know, get all the milk out of my breast. And then when she went to bed at night, because she slept really well, by the way, just overnight sleep, she's always been really good at that. So when she would go down for sleep like rather early, and I might pump an extra session before I go to sleep, like she's already asleep, I'm going to sleep, and I'll do an extra pump session just to like keep up my milk production. There was even a time where I tried getting up like in the middle of the night to like make more milk. I think looking back, I don't think that was necessary, but that was just something that I did because I just wanted to make sure that I was making enough milk for her. And then, oh, and then right around the time that she started getting solids, we did introduce formula. So that 4 or 5 month mark, she got some formula. We tried out 2 different brands, and then the Similac, I think 360 brand, I think ended up working better in our favor, just because she was only getting like a formula, like 1 or 2 formula bottles like a day at the beginning at that 4 or 5 month old mark, so that I could have a break, you know, so that I wasn't like super worried about, you know, pumping all the time. And I had to be with her all the time to breastfeed, because like babies, like they eat very frequently. Like they tell you to make them bigger and to build up their fat and stuff, you know, to make them grow, you know, feed them like I think every 3 to 4 hours. And so I could never leave her. I could never do anything. Like she was attached to me all the time. So it's like I couldn't leave her when she was exclusively breastfeeding. So we introduced that formula where she got like 1 or 2 bottles a day, and then it slowly increased after 6 months. And that way, like my husband could give her a bottle of formula. We could have like help. My parents, my husband's mother, help us with the baby, and they could feed her as well. So I wasn't constantly having to be her only source of food. And then for 6 months, things really changed, where, you know, she was starting to get some food. In our case, she didn't get that much food right away at like 6 months. I really wasn't until she turned like a year old that she's gotten like a bunch of food, because like she wasn't very excited about food right away, maybe because my breast milk was just so good, I don't know, but also she has been really slow to gain teeth. Like it wasn't until she was like over a year old that she really got 4 teeth, you know, like the bottom 2 showed up at some point, and then the top teeth didn't show up until she was like a year old. And now at 14 months, we can start seeing 2 more teeth at the top finally coming in. So she's been I feel like that's very slow for teeth to come in. And so that's pretty hard to eat solids if you can't like chew food. So that means she's only getting purees, and those aren't very fun. At least she seemed to not be interested in those at all at 6 months old. And that's when they, you know, say, oh, you can give your baby like foods and stuff. At least that's what her doctor said, and I, you know, followed her pediatrician, of course. So after 6 months, you know, we're introducing formula, she's getting food, so she's getting breast milk less. I ended up freezing a lot of breast milk when I was pumping. I think by 6 months, I think I might have stopped, you know, breastfeeding her from the breast, and then like moving on to exclusively pumping after that. So I was just pumping a lot, trying to make more milk. And then because she was also getting formula and food, she was having breast milk less. So I would freeze it with the intention that I could stop pumping before she turned a year old, you know, because I was like, okay, the goal after 6 months was like, okay, you know what, let me see if I can make it to a year of just exclusively pumping, and that way I can like say she's like, oh, you know, being breastfed for a year because she's getting my breast milk for a year. So I started freezing milk around 6 months old with the intent that I would build enough of frozen breast milk that I could stop pumping when she's like 11 or 10 months old, like having like a month supply of milk or more. But what ended up happening was like I ended up pumping less and less and less at, you know, by 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, then definitely by like 9, 10 months, we were starting to defrost that milk that I had just like frozen like a couple months earlier. So I mean, that's just what worked out for me. It was just like I was trying not to like beat myself up about it, because I was like giving myself a break perfect. I didn't have to like pump, you know, 6 times a day or more. Okay, like maybe I was like slowly starting to pump less and less and less. I think by 9, 10, 11 months, I think I was only pumping maybe like 4 times a day. Still making milk, but never being like engorged. You know, I think that's what they call it when like your breasts are so full of milk that you have to express it, you know, and like leaking and stuff. I never really experienced that other than like the first couple of days where the milk is coming in. I think that's when it was the most painful, when I was like full of milk. But because she was exclusively breastfed, I really didn't have that problem early on. So I think that's why I kept doing it, because I was like, okay, I'm making milk. It's not painful, you know, I'm making enough milk, and she's drinking it. So I'm just gonna keep going. And I'm just here with her at home all the time. And if you see my vlogs, you'll see like, I'm just like, you know, my little homebody with my baby here. And so I was able to do it. So I was like, I feel like I should. So yeah, by the last like 3 months, we were defrosting frozen breast milk, but I was still pumping like 4 times a day, making, you know, some milk, but not like a whole bunch of milk to like fully sustain her. And she's getting more solids, also getting formula. She's getting all these different things. And then by 12 months, I was like, I'm done. So by 12 months, I stopped pumping to, you know, make milk for her bottles and stuff. She was still getting milk, but by 12 months old, her doctor said that she can get whole milk. So we're like, okay, cool, awesome. We're gonna start giving her whole milk, slowly fading out the breast milk and the formula. And I think I only pumped like a couple times after she was 12 months old, just to like express, you know, milk. And I think it was starting to get a little uncomfortable because my body's like, okay, I think we're just gonna stop doing this. and I think that leads up to now, and we're she's 14 months old. 2 months she's, you know, I stopped, you know, pumping to make her milk. I can still, like, if I go in the shower, I can physically express milk from my breast, but just like a couple drops, you know. My doctor, my OB, I had like my year checkup with her, and she said that that's pretty normal. Some moms can even produce milk like I think years after, I think she said. I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, watch that happen to me. Like I could still be making milk like a year later, even though I stopped breastfeeding her, just because I did it for a year. Like, that'd be so crazy. So that's the whole story of my breastfeeding journey. And so here's what I learned, and some tips and stuff. So some pros, she's 14 months old now, and she has never gotten sick. I mean, knock on wood. Oh shoot, I have no wood. Is this baseboard wood? No, knock on wood. But she's never gotten sick. And so everyone was so expecting her to get sick at some point. I mean, usually babies do at some point. They get like a cold, or, you know, somebody gives them a sickness. I do admit, like, when she was like first born, before she really got that many vaccines, I mean, she's still getting a bunch of vaccines. You know, we like to be very precautious with that, of course. And so when she was like first born, she was like a newborn, I was very like, protective of her seeing new people, especially if they have like a cough. Oh, they always have a cough. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. I was like, do not hold, you know, do not be near my newborn baby if you're coughing. I'm sorry, like, that's just where I draw the line. So at the beginning, I was very like protective of her like that, but she's still, yeah, she hasn't gotten sick. So I like to think my breastfeeding and my breast milk and all those hours I put into pumping and breastfeeding her helped her immune system, because that's what they say. That's what they say is really good for the babies, is because they get like the antibodies. No, so they get something from the breast milk from the mom that helps them fight viruses and stuff. And so that's I like to think that is a big help factor. And then another pro is that obviously we saved money, because formula is not cheap. It is not cheap. Now that she switched over to whole milk now as a toddler, I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because cow's milk is so much cheaper than formula. It's so crazy. And they're just like pumping through that stuff, especially when they don't finish a bottle and you're like, oh my gosh, like it can really add up. So I like to think that we saved a lot of money by me, you know, pumping and breastfeeding and stuff. So I like to think that all of those hours that I put into it helped us save money in the end. I have no idea. And here's a con, especially for pumping. I feel like I spent so much time pumping, and like I said, like at one point when I was like worried about my milk production, I would stay up at night, or I would wake up in the middle of the night to, not in the middle of the night, but like maybe an hour or two into sleeping to pump. And so looking back, I kind of regret it because I ended up like not having any real problem like keeping up my milk production. So I don't think that was necessary. I mean, if you really want to be sure, moms, like go ahead. But like when I did stay up and I pumped that extra pump session, I maybe got like 1.5 ounces of milk by like waiting an extra couple hours to do the extra pump. And so I'm like, was that worth it? Was it worth all those, like I could have gotten so much sleep or me time, you know, instead of that extra 1.5 ounces, you know, every time. I know it adds up, but like I don't think those extra pump sessions were worth it. And when I was pumping, yeah, I guess all these cons are like intuitive to pumping specifically. When I was pumping, I was immobile because I didn't get one of those fancy cordless, I guess, hands-free cordless pumping devices. Looking back, I wish I did. So I guess that's like another thing that I learned. It was like, I wish I did throw that money down to get a nice, like high quality pump. And so I got a very basic one. If I can find the image, I'll show it here. Yeah, so it's like, it's very bulky, like with all the things attached to me, and like with like a nursing bra, like those pumps things can like poke out like very far, like maybe, oh, okay, maybe not that far, maybe like this far. And so like I could not, you know, move around. I was basically immobile in a chair sitting down. It was not very fun. There was like one point where I tried to like see if I could like attach the pumping device to like my belt and like be plugged into the wall to see if I could like wash dishes while I was pumping, like just to do something, because like especially at the beginning, the pump sessions, like I felt like I didn't know like the whole letdown system of like having to pump and stuff, or you know, like because when you let down, that's like, oh, it's you're telling your body to release the milk. And so I didn't know that at the time, so I think I was like not optimizing my pumping sessions, especially at the beginning. And so like those pump sessions were a long time, like maybe like half an hour. I was like doing these pumping sessions trying to get last bit of milk, and I didn't know anything about like hand expressing, literally just like getting your breast after do the letdown and your body knows to start releasing milk. You can just like literally with your hands just like squeeze the milk out. It is so easy, and it took me forever to learn that. So yeah, there's another tip, just like, oh, you know, just figure out how to hand express. You know, it can look painful from like an outsider's perspective who doesn't have your boobs, you know, who are like your mom boobs that are filled with milk. You can just like, oh, just like squeeze them out, and it's so easy. And another con about like pumping and stuff and breastfeeding is that, like for me specifically, this might not be for you, but the letdown process wasn't very fun for me. Like I'm one of those moms that I don't know if it's like genetic or something, where like when you do the letdown process, you know, those like 2 minutes that you're like, you know, trying to do a letdown to tell your body to release the milk, I get like, just like sad, not sad, but just like nothing, like nothingness happens in my brain. Some moms, they feel like a wave of joy and love for their baby. I just don't get that. So I just knew every time I pumped, I would just like, oh, just like kind of zone out for a couple minutes. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened. I don't know who I am, but that's just what happened to me. So that might be not be for you, but if you have the same process, just know I also felt that as well. Okay, I already stuck in some tips and things that I learned, but here's some more general advice that I just want you to take away before I end this video, is that if it's too difficult for the baby to latch, or you really think you're not producing enough milk for your baby, it's really okay to stop breastfeeding. You're not any worse of a mother because you're struggling. I just got really lucky. I think that's what it is. I got really lucky that my baby did latch, and I was able to breastfeed her exclusively for like 4 or 5 months until she got food. I mean, in the end, you know, it's only a couple months, and then your baby starts getting food, and then before you know it, then they're done with milk. You know, it's only that first year that they'll have to have mostly milk. There's no shame in formula. Even like I had no problem. I probably could have physically, my body probably could have fed my baby for the whole year, but I just decided, you know, no, like why? Like I'm just gonna introduce formula. Like financially we can pay for you know, an occasional bottle of formula for her and food and everything. So if you can financially do it, you know, there's no shame in just stopping breastfeeding. I just feel like I need to tell you that. Also, one thing I didn't know, how this is like your body will change and react differently when you are breastfeeding. I mean, it's no secret that your body's going through a crazy change after having a baby. I mean, you're huge with this big old baby, and then boom, the baby's gone, and you're gonna bleed for like 6 weeks. Like I bled for almost 7 weeks, you know, out your hoo-ha where the baby came out, and you know, and how you're gonna feed this baby with milk. Of course, your body's going through changes. That there's no secret about that. But if you continue to breastfeed, it does tell your body to make different choices as well. Like during the letdown, like when you breastfeed and the letdown process, you'll feel very thirsty. Immediately when I was doing a letdown, like I needed to like chug water. Like I felt so dehydrated. I don't know what it is. I mean, there's no secret that when you do breastfeed and you pump and stuff, that you need to be very hydrated in order to, you know, make that milk for your baby. But yeah, something about the letdown process, you get super thirsty, so you'll need water and you're just gonna be hungry. It's not gonna feel like where you were post-baby or pre-baby, I guess I would say. And it's like, it's not like a pre-baby hunger, and it's not like a pregnancy hunger, because you know, when you're pregnant, you're hungry. But for me, it felt like when I was pregnant, it was like a constant hunger. Like I was hungry all the time. I could eat at any point, but of course, you know, you can only eat, at least for me, by the 3rd trimester, you can only eat so much before you were like, oh my gosh, I feel so full, because you literally physically had less space in your abdomen for the food to go in your stomach, because the baby's like all the way out here, you know. But it's like when you're breastfeeding, the hunger is like waves here, because let's say I'm pumping 4 times a day, and so I pump, and then like immediately after the session, or maybe not immediately after, maybe like 30, like definitely by 30 minutes after the session, I am so hungry. I am like, I want to eat, you know, I need to eat, you know, after every session or maybe before every session, and you just get waves of this hunger, you know, because obviously your body is making new milk, so it needs more nutrients and stuff, like obviously. But it's a very different type of hunger, and also it makes it harder for you to lose that baby weight, at least for me. I'm speaking for myself, where I was told by like so many moms, it felt like, especially my mom was like, oh, you've been breastfeeding for so long, it's gonna be easier for you to lose the baby weight because you're technically you're burning calories because your body's making milk. But because of those waves of hunger, it was so much harder to lose weight, lose the baby weight. You know, the weight is not always in the baby, it's like in your blood, and of course you get fat, you have fat in your body, and like you bloat, you know. So it was so hard to lose the baby weight while I was breastfeeding. And then when I was starting to wean off of you know, breastfeeding, pumping, and definitely when I stopped breastfeeding altogether, that hunger, that constant hunger that I felt all the time was basically gone. Like my metabolism, I guess you would say, went back to what it was pre-baby. So I got hunger at the normal times. So I was like, oh, it was easier for me to diet after pumping, which makes no sense. Like what? Like because I'm burning more calories. Basically, you're burning like a workout, like a good workout amount of calories a day just by pumping. I mean, I guess you could work out also. That would probably be the key, and then also dieting. But that's too much. That's too much. Imagine doing that. Imagine pumping 6 times a day so that you are burning like 250, 300 calories a day, and then you are dieting, you know, watching your calories and not, you know, overeating and stuff like that, and also doing a workout like that's, and then taking care of a baby. All those extra things just to lose the baby weight, and taking care of a baby, and somehow sleeping, like that's too much. Like that's too too much to try to lose the baby weight. I think that's sort of what I was trying to do, is if I wasn't trying to work out. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do a workout, you know, I'm exhausted all the time, but surely if I pump and I, you know, try not to overeat, then surely I'll lose the baby weight. And I was crawling, guys. Like, I was like crawling so much. I think I didn't announce it on here until like August or something, that in July, 7-8 months old, so 7-8 months postpartum is when I was like, okay, I'm officially going to diet and count calories, because I lost like a big chunk of baby weight, and I was like slowly starting to gain it back because I was like still so hungry from the breastfeeding. I swear, I think that's why. And plus, like, not getting the right amount of sleep doesn't help either, of course. But yeah, so with that wonderful note, that is my whole breastfeeding journey, everything I learned, all the tips that I could give, just in the general sense. But yeah, that's it. That's everything. I've talked enough. I just really wanted to tell you guys, I just want to put it all in one video, everything I've learned about breastfeeding, just so if any other moms that want to know this information, they can find it and they know everything. I don't regret it, but I like I said, I think the only thing I regret is like pumping extra times, which I don't think she needed. If anything, I regret that, but I like to think that she didn't get sick and she stayed healthy and she's a good weight because of all the pumping and the breastfeeding that I did with her. And she's a happy, healthy baby now. And I'm really proud of my work to raise this baby. Okay, I've been talking long enough. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely like this video if you did. If you want more like story time, little talky videos, I usually do vlogs of like my life with my baby, so this is like a little bit different. I'm like reverting back to like when I first started YouTube and I just had a bunch of information to give. That was like the sort of thing that I started off on here with. And so if you like these kind of videos, definitely make sure to give it a like so that I know, hey, you want more of this. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, if you're this far in, might as well. Might as well subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. That'd be great. I'd love that. But yeah, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.